Okay. The Presidential Office Act 1993 at 463 is unconstitutional. Friends of the media, I have the unpleasant duty to draw attention to certain practices of the government that are gradually gnawing at the mandate of both the civil service and the local government service. It is about the use of the Presidential Office Act 1993 at 463 to virtually duplicate the work of the appointing authorities of the civil service and the local government service. It is worrying that the Act gave unfettered powers to the President to appoint all categories of presidential staff without any requisite qualification and experience on the part of those presidential staffers and assistants. The only limitation is in the law is for the President to just inform Parliament about the numbers involved. Friends of the media, this is a very bad law used by the executive to its advantage. The promulgation of the Presidential Act 1993 at 463, enabling the President to appoint persons described as presidential staffers or special assistants, is unwarranted and a conduit to employ party apparatchiks and guru boys to undermine the work of the public services that are constitutionally mandated to assist government in its work. Article 190 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic outlines the public services of Ghana and prescribes how these services should be organized and staffed. This has adequately provided the necessary institutional needs of the President as captured as follows. Article 58(1) of the Constitution states that the executive authority of Ghana shall vest in the President and shall be exercised in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. Furthermore, Article 192 of the 1992 Constitution makes the civil service part of the public services, which is the central government machinery servicing the office of the President and, by extension, the executive arm of government by way of staffing and operations. This is in consonance with other services, i.e., parliamentary service and the judicial service, servicing the legislature and the judiciary, respectively. According to the Civil Service Act 1993, PNDC Law 327, the objective of the civil service is to assist government in the formulation and implementation of government policies for the development of the country. The Civil Service Act 1993, Section 4A, states that a person serving in a civil capacity in a post designated as civil service post by or under this Act in 1, the office of the President, 2, a ministry, 3, a government department at the national levels. Article 1951 of the Constitution states that, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the power to appoint persons to hold or to act in an office in the public services shall vest in the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Governing Council of the service concerned, given in consultation with the Public Services Commission. Article 1952 also states that the President may, subject to such conditions how he may think fit, delegate some of his functions under this article by directions in writing to the Governing Council concerned or to a committee of the Council or any member of that Governing Council or to any public officer. Article 71 says that the President shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint the Commissioner for Human Rights and British Justice and his deputies, the Auditor General, the District Assembly's Common Fund Administrator, the Chairman and other members of 1, the Public Services Commission, Lands Commission, the governing bodies of public corporations, and National Council for Higher Education also described, and the holders of such office as may be described by this Constitution or by any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution. The President shall, acting in advice of the Council of State, appoint the Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and other members of the Electoral Commission. Article 17 and 195, 1 and 2 clearly give the mandate to appoint public officers, which does not include the power given to the President in the Presidential Office Act to appoint presidential staffers. The appointing power of the President given in the Presidential Office Act is therefore inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution. The intention here is that all presidential staffers must be public officers. CLOSAC over the years has observed and noted with dismay the abuse of executive power in the appointment of numerous presidential staffers, which has tainted the credibility of the public services and sought to diminish its relevance in the face of the public. This, to a large extent, has expanded the public services workforce and its related expenditure. Currently, Ghana is bedeviled with certain economic woes that can be attributed to these practices. These issues and challenges, to a very large extent, are self-inflicted and can easily be forestalled if due process and recognition of the constitutions are adhered to. CLOSAC has further noted with vexation the current phenomenon of appointing special assistants to perform jobs of public servants. This situation has contributed to an alarming development of a takeover of public services jobs by political apparatchiks and cohorts. These clandestine acts by the political elite, if not checked, will erode the significance and support base of our governance architecture and systems. A lot of scenarios can be cited to demonstrate this anomaly. There have been instances where politicians enter the services as special assistants and are made to act as directors, procurement officers, assistant directors, drivers, who take home salaries and allowances far above the permanent public servants, because the Presidential Act 1993, Act 4663, recognizes them under Article 17 of the 1992 Constitution. Although there might be certain circumstances that may require special skills that are not readily available in the public services to work in certain positions in the office of the President, the Civil Service Act 1993, PNDC Law 327 states that the head of civil service may make proposals to the government to give out on contractual, retainer, or commission basis specify occupational areas of the functions of the service to private organizations. Thus, the expertise needed to cover the lapses and gray areas needed by the government has been adequately provided for in the Civil Service Act. The idea behind the Presidential Office Act to a very large extent is misplaced in our circumstances, since most of the positions in the Act, as listed below, have already been adequately covered in the Constitution. Section 2 of the Presidential Office Act states that the function of the office is to provide the President and the Vice President such services as they may require for the efficient and effective implementation of the executive functions of the President and the Vice President under the Constitution and any other law. This provision has no basis in the Constitution in the sense that Article 58(1) states that the executive authority of Ghana shall vest in the President and shall be exercised in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. Section 4 of the Presidential Office Act gives unfettered powers to the President. The number of persons that may be appointed under subsection 1 of this section and the grade of the officers shall be determined by the President. This provision, as it stands, also gives unfettered authority and power to the President, making the President the sole determinant of the numbers, grades, expertise of operatives at the Presidency. This situation has resulted in nepotism and abuse of power. It also avoids civil public services control, management, and accountability. Section 5 of the Presidential Act states that a person appointed as a presidential staff under Section 4.1 of this Act shall hold office at the pleasure of the President and shall cease to hold office on his removal or resignation from office or on cessation of the tenure of the office of the President. Tramples on the human rights of the appointees if reference is made to Article 12.2 of the Constitution, and it also contravenes the Labour Act at 203 at 651. The Presidential Office Act also states that other conditions of service, the President shall be entitled to such salaries, allowance, facilities, and privileges as shall be determined under Article 71 of the Constitution. This section under the Presidential Office Act seeks to expand the coverage of the Article 71. This provision under the Act 460 assumes an act that could be used to change the scope of Article 71 in the Constitution. This is anomalous. But here we are, past and present, executive arm of governments have not made any attempt to alter this law. Recommendations. Stemming from above comparative analysis of the provisions of the Presidential Office Act 1993 at 463, the following is being proposed for adoption and consideration by government. Government should immediately take steps to nullify the Presidential Office Act 1993 and revert to the use of public services to appoint and manage officers serving at the office of the President as required under the Constitution. Article 197 of the Constitution has adequately mandated and positioned the Public Services Commission to ensure that the necessary administrative, regulatory, managerial, institutional arrangements are put in place in the office of the President. It states that the Public Services Commission may, subject to approval of the President, make regulations by constitutional instrument for the effective and efficient performance of its functions under this Constitution or any other law. The Public Services Commission should take steps to come out with the constitutional instrument to regulate the public services, including the office of the President. Thank you. Whilst we were preparing for this statement, we came across this clip, and I want us to watch it. Currently, the presidential staffers, the number is about 900. It's about 1,000, but you can check. It's on the internet. And then, why now? Because you're all aware of the economic situation we are facing now. And we as CLOSAC, we think. Are you ready? Hey, Atawokocha. Yes, why now? We are all aware of the situation we face in terms of the economy of our country. And we as CLOSAC believe it's because of the actions and operations of these apparatchiks and guru boys that has landed us in this situation. We go to Ministry of Finance, not only Ministry of Finance, all the ministries. You find them all over there with no experience, no institutional memory, taking over civil service jobs. They go on workshops, they go on programs, and then they just come. They don't even write any reports. And this is why we are where we are, and we think it's time there should be a change. I think I'll combine the two and answer. What we are doing now, we are setting the public agenda. We think this law is so bad, and if we love Ghana and we want Ghana to move, as the Tankwa said, that it's not the politicians that can move this country. And consistently, they've proven it. It's the public service, the civil service, that will move this nation forward. So we are setting the public agenda. It's for me and you to be aware that this is the cost of our woes. The next move we'll do is that we'll be collecting signatures all over the country. And then from there, don't be surprised if it moves to demonstrations. Yeah, you are ready? Okay, let's go.